Okay. So in the year of our Lord, 2021, it's probably a bit late to be making a video like this. I mean, Danganronpa's been out for what, 11 years now? What's the point of making a video telling people how to get into it when it's been around for so long? Just hear me out. Okay, there is no reason. I just had this idea while I was in the shower this morning, and I couldn't rest until I'd actually made this video. So, without further ado, here's Shady's Guide to Danganronpa, for any of you newbies out there. Oh yeah, and quick disclaimer, this is all just my opinion. Experience the series however you'd like, I honestly don't care. With the way Danganronpa has blown up on TikTok, I'm not surprised at the amount of new fans wondering how to get into the series. It definitely seems pretty daunting from an outsider's perspective, I know. I've been there. But I promise, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Mostly. Of course, you've always got to start from the beginning. Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc is the first game in the series, originally released in 2010 for the PSP, though the game wouldn't be officially translated into English until 2014. A text-based Let's Play and fan translation patch existed before then, though. This game has you following Makoto Naegi, a self-proclaimed very average person, on his first day attending Hope's Peak Academy, a prestigious school for only the best of the best. Makoto got in through a lottery, and was declared the ultimate lucky student. However, things quickly go south, and Makoto finds himself and 14 of his classmates locked inside the school by a robotic bear named Monokuma, and forced to kill each other if they want to escape. Yeah, this is a murder mystery game. Every game in the series is, except for Ultra Despair Girls, but we'll get to that later. So if blood and death ain't your thing, this franchise probably won't be for you. Trigger Happy Havoc also has an anime adaptation called Danganronpa the Animation that was released in 2013, but it tries to cram 30 plus hours of gameplay into 20-ish minute episodes, so the whole thing comes out feeling very compressed and rushed. Besides that, it's very faithful to the game, however, so it's not a bad watch. I'd say that if you don't have that much time to put into a game or a Let's Play, watch the anime and then look up the free time events from the game on YouTube to get a better insight on the character. Next up, Super Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair is the second game in the franchise, released in 2012 and also not seeing an official translation until 2014. This game follows a new protagonist, Hajime Hinata, who interestingly has no memory of his ultimate talent. The premise is basically the same as the first one, but on a tropical island rather than a school, and with a whole new cast of characters. Most fans consider Danganronpa 2 to be the strongest entry in the franchise, citing its cast and mysteries as some of the series' greatest. I am somewhat inclined to agree, considering one of my two favorite characters comes from this game, along with my favorite case. If you know, you know. This installment has no anime adaptation, so the only way to experience it yourself is either through playing the game yourself or watching a Let's Play. This game is very much worth it though, so if you finished and enjoyed Trigger Happy Havoc, absolutely give Goodbye Despair a shot. Speaking of giving something a shot, oh boy, this one's a mouthful. Danganronpa Another Episode, Ultra Despair Girls, that's a long-ass title, was released in 2015, and was the first Danganronpa game to not have to wait several years for a translation! Hooray! This game follows Makoto's younger sister, Komaru Naegi, and explores what happened in the outside world in between the events of Trigger Happy Havoc and Goodbye Despair. However, it should not be played/watched until after finishing Goodbye Despair, as it contains heavy spoilers for that game. It's also a completely different style of gameplay compared to the rest of the series, being a third-person shooter rather than a visual novel. This game is also a bit controversial, as it contains heavy themes of child abuse, and does not shy away from the nasty parts of it, so be warned if you plan on experiencing this one. From what I've heard, it's better watched rather than played, as the gameplay can be a bit wonky, but it's still a game I heavily suggest you experience in some form or another. It also does not have an anime adaptation, though it does have one episode dedicated to it in... Danganronpa 3, The End of Hope's Peak High School, that's even more of a mouthful, was released in 2016. It had two sides to it, Side Future and Side Despair. Future is a sequel focused on what happens after the previous three installments, while Despair is a prequel, showing what led up to them. These then culminate into one final episode, Side Hope, that connects the two sides and ends the show. This is the first and only mainline installment that I actually suggest you skip. Watch it if you want, but it is in no way needed to understand the games, and from what I've seen is universally panned by fans and considered just kind of bad. I know this show has its fans, but I am absolutely not one of them. Mostly because after the first game in one of the light novels, which I'll get to later, this is my favorite character in the entire series. Again, if you know, you know. But if you really want to know what happened before and after the previous games, and don't mind some scuffed as hell writing, then check this one out, I guess. Anyways... Alright, it might not actually be the finale, we're not really sure yet, but considering how it ended, that's a pretty fair assumption to make. Danganronpa V3, Killing Harmony, yeah, 3 and V3, not at all confusing naming scheme here, was released in 2017, and is the most recent installment in the mainline series. It entirely branches off from the Hope's Peak Academy plot, with an entirely new setting, new characters, new everything, while still keeping the core idea and gameplay all the same. It's still a murder mystery visual novel like the first two games, don't worry. This game is also a bit controversial within the fandom, but most of that has to do with its ending, which I can't discuss here because spoilers than anything else. Here, we follow the ultimate pianist, Kaede Akamatsu, after she wakes up in what looks to be an abandoned, decaying school. Turns out Kaede and her 15 classmates are part of, surprise surprise, another killing game. I promise this doesn't feel as repetitive as it sounds. This game is also very good, and brings about a lot of welcome changes to the gameplay and UI, like finally being able to see the player character's expressions, and not just the character they're speaking to. It makes Kaede feel a lot more... lifelike? For lack of a better word. Maybe lively? I don't know. Man, it's hard to talk about these games without spoiling anything. Moving on. Okay, please don't get scared off by the word literature. I promise it's not that bad. Danganronpa has a lot of supplementary material, and a good chunk of that is made up of manga and light novels. On the light novel side, the most well-known ones are probably Danganronpa Kirigiri and Danganronpa Togami, Danganronpa Zero, and Danganronpa If. The Kirigiri and Togami light novels give more detailed backstories to the characters in question, and while they're not necessarily required reading, if you like either of those characters, you might want to check them out. Danganronpa Zero is another prequel, but apparently this one is actually good from what I've heard. Because I haven't read it. I know, I'm a fake fan, whatever. Now this is the big one. Danganronpa If is probably the most well-known of these, next to Zero, and I absolutely do consider it required reading. I think it's an unlockable you can get after finishing Goodbye Despair, but somebody also slapped the entire thing up on Wattpad, so it's there too if you don't want to play an entire game just to read a short light novel. I suggest not reading it until after finishing at least Trigger Happy Havoc, though, because it has very heavy spoilers for that game. Anyways, If is, well, a what-if scenario for the first game. But I can't really tell you what the scenario is, because spoilers. Sorry. There's also a whole wealth of manga, and probably all kinds of spin-off material I've never even heard of, but I think I've covered all the bases on what you need to know going in. That only leaves us with... Danganronpa is an amazing franchise that I'm extremely glad is getting the attention it deserves, and I'm always happy to point new fans in the right direction. All the games are available on PC with Windows, Linux, and Mac support, and the PS4 officially translated. And there's an English translation patch for the original PSP version if that's more your speed. It is fan-made though, so look out for that. There's also about 1 million Let's Plays up on YouTube, so go ahead and pick your poison. Can't wait to see y'all in the fandom. Catch you later.